It's something we do dozens, maybe hundreds of times a day without even thinking about it. We type a question into a little box, and poof, we get an answer. It feels so simple, almost like magic. But behind that screen, there's this quiet, really elegant process going on. So today, we're going to follow that journey step by step.
I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about it? In that tiny fraction of a second, that blink of an eye between you hitting enter and the results popping up, what's actually happening? What journey does your question even go on?
Well, it all kicks off right here with something we see all the time, a basic web form, just a text box and a button. This is our starting line. This is the place where we send our question out into the big, wide digital world.
What happens next really isn't some big, mysterious, magical process. Honestly, the clearest and simplest way to understand it is to just think of it as a conversation. Yeah, a conversation. It's an incredibly fast and precise one, for sure, but it's a conversation all the same. So in this conversation, you've got two main participants. On one side, there's the client. That's just your web browser, Chrome, Safari, whatever you're using. It's the one asking the question. And on the other side, you have the server. That's the powerful computer that runs the website you're visiting. Its whole job is to just sit there and listen for questions and then provide the answers. And this right here is the basic rhythm of that conversation. Your browser, the client, neatly packages up your search into what's called a request. The server gets that request, figures out what you want, and then sends back a response. This simple little back and forth, this request-response cycle, it's basically the heartbeat of the entire interactive web.
Okay, so let's zoom in a bit on the server's role in all this. I find it helpful to think of the server as a hyper-efficient librarian, and all the website's data is like a massive, perfectly organized library. You've just handed over your little request slip. So now what?
The whole process really just breaks down into three simple steps. First, there's the ask. That's what we just did when we hit search. Second is the search, which is where our librarian server goes to find the information. And third, the result, where it actually puts together a custom-made page just for you. And just like that, step one, the ask, is complete. Your question has zipped across the internet and landed with the server. Our digital librarian now has your request in hand and is totally ready to get to work.
So here's the next question. How does that server find the exact piece of information you're looking for? I mean, it's not just randomly flipping through digital pages, right? No, it has a very specific, very clever way of talking to its massive digital archive. An archive we call a database. To pull this off, the server and the database speak a common, specialized language. You can almost think of it as a secret code that lets the server make these incredibly precise requests, making sure it gets back exactly the right stuff and nothing else. And that language has a name, SQL. It stands for Structured Query Language. It's pretty much the universal standard for how programs, like the software on the web server, ask a database to find, add, or even change information.
So, an SQL query might look a little something like this. Now, it might look a bit technical, but what it's saying is actually super simple. This is just the server telling the database, hey, I need you to select everything from the data table called employee. It's a crystal clear instruction.
So, once the database finds what the server asked for, the librarian's job still isn't quite done, because what it gets back isn't a nice, neat web page ready for you to look at. Let's take a look at how the server turns raw data into a clear result. This is pretty much what the database actually sends back to the server. Yeah, it's not a web page at all, it's just raw data. In this case, it's just a single line from a file. There's no formatting, no layout, just the core information. The server's next job is to make sense of this mess.
So the server kind of acts like an interpreter and an organizer all at once. It takes that raw string of data and parses it. It splits it up into meaningful columns and rows. It basically takes this jumble of unstructured information and gives it a nice, clean structure. Now, with all that data perfectly structured, the server can perform its final little magic trick. It dynamically generates a completely new web page from scratch. It builds a table, fills it with the data it just got, and sends this freshly baked page back to your browser as the response.
Of course, we've all been there. You search for something and you get, well, nothing. A well-built system knows this is going to happen sometimes, and handling that is part of the conversation too. So instead of just showing you an error or a blank page, the server is programmed to handle this situation gracefully. It checks to see if any results came back. If not, it just builds a different page, one that politely lets you know that your search didn't find anything. That little bit of feedback is actually a really crucial part of a good experience.
Okay, let's just step back for a second and look at this whole journey. When we put all these little pieces together, what's the big idea? What's the main thing to take away from this quiet, incredibly fast process?
Well, it really boils down to this. A simple search is just a conversation between your browser and a server. That server uses a special language, SQL, to ask a database for info. And the most important part, that results page you see isn't just sitting there waiting for you, it's custom built for you right in that moment. And this isn't just for search, it's how almost every interactive site works. It's why your social media feed is totally unique to you, and why your online shopping cart remembers what you put in it.
So if there's one really crucial point to let sink in, it's this. When you're browsing most websites today, you aren't just clicking through a set of pre-made, static files like pages in a digital book. No, you're taking part in a process where pages are literally being created on the fly, specifically in response to what you do. The web is a dynamic, living thing.
And you know, maybe that's the most peaceful thought of all. Behind what can feel like a vast, chaotic storm of information online, there's this quiet, underlying, logical, and really elegant conversation happening, all the time, just turning our endless questions into clear, structured answers.